in the eastern reaches of Russia, at a point in Siberia that no map has ever precisely marked, a satellite image began quietly circulating among analysts last year. There was no city in the image, no village. But right in the middle of that forested area, a geometric heat signature rising from beneath the snow cover was unlike anything modern infrastructure could explain. No power source, no cables, no antenna. Yet something was generating energy. And 3 days later, that image was suddenly deleted from the database. Let me ask you something. If the great catastrophe of 1816 truly happened, if Tartaria truly existed, and if that reset tried to erase every trace, where did the survivors go? Where did the ones who escaped hide? And what about those who never hit at all? Who are they? Most people, when they hear about the Mudflood, immediately think of cities buried under mud, buildings with no windows on the first floor, and civilizations entombed in layers of centuries. But no one takes this question seriously enough. What happened to those who were alive at the moment of the catastrophe? Where did they go? Official history answers this question with a single phrase: there were no survivors. And that is precisely why this answer is a candidate for one of history's greatest lies. Because everything official history says didn't exist actually means it exists, but we don't want you to see it. And the clues pointing to the existence of these communities have been buried deep in Siberia for 150 years, but never fully destroyed. As always, someone is hiding something from us. Now I want to run a thought experiment with you. Imagine 1816. The sky darkened for years, average temperatures dropped, crops rotted. Historians call this the year without a summer. But those who embrace the Tartaria narrative believe this date conceals something far deeper. If a civilization truly existed that was vastly superior to us technologically, and if that civilization was leveled by a sudden reset, let's assume that its most conscious and most prepared members had foreseen this catastrophe and acted accordingly. Imagine that before abandoning their cities powered by atmospheric electricity, they dismantled the energy system and took it with them. Imagine that the wireless power transmission Tesla later rediscovered never actually disappeared. It was simply relocated. Where did these people go? The answer is surprisingly straightforward: into the interior of Russia, into the most inaccessible geographies, into the vast forests of Siberia. And there, no one would suspect them. No one would even know they existed. And this is not just imagination. There are communities in Siberia whose existence has been known for decades, but whose systematic investigation has been blocked. The most famous of these is the Lykov family, discovered in 1978. This family lived for decades in the remote mountains of Siberia, completely unaware of the modern world. Soviet geologists found them almost by accident. But what about those who were never found? What about communities that go beyond deliberate hiding, communities that are actively protected? Siberia's geography is no secret. Millions of hectares of unexplored forest, uninhabited river valleys, dense canopy cover that even satellite imagery cannot fully penetrate. This is the world's most perfect fortress for those who wish to remain hidden. And I believe far more secrets lie buried in these lands. Now let's get to the truly spine-chilling part, the architecture. Look at old photographs of Siberia taken in the late 1800s. Pay close attention to the structures in those remote villages. These are not ordinary, simple log cabins. The stone blocks of some structures are cut and interlocked with a precision that no forest village should have had the capacity to produce. Researchers call this technique stone softening technology, and according to the claim, the Tartarian civilization shaped granite like dough using natural organic solvents or acoustic resonance methods. If the people who know the secret of this technique are still alive, the structures they build today would be beyond anything modern humans could imagine. And these structures appear in satellite imagery as exactly that, geometric heat signatures. Just like the image that analysts detected and that was deleted 3 days later. So why aren't these people being silenced? Why can't they be found? Because the silencing mechanism never worked on them. Researchers investigating the systematic apparatus built in the 19th century to suppress the testimonies of Mudflood survivors suggest that the mental institutions of that era were actually silencing operations. People who asked, "Where did all this mud come from?" were labeled as elements disturbing the sanity of the newly constructed civilization and were erased from institutional memory. But some escaped. Some were forced to go far enough away before the wheel of systematic forgetting could reach them. And the descendants of these people live today in the interior of Russia, at points that we can never reach. They are the last witnesses who could not be silenced. Because to silence them, you first have to find them. I hope they are never found, and that one day, one of them steps forward and tells the truth. Now the most critical question: what do these communities know? Let's return to the matter of atmospheric electricity. In his 1899 experiment in Colorado Springs, Nikola Tesla succeeded in wirelessly lighting bulbs in an environment with no wires, and implied that this technique was not new, that clues to it existed in ancient sources. But what if this technique never disappeared? What if Tartaria's energy grid was dismantled during the Great Reset, transported to Siberia, and is still operating today? You think that sounds absurd, don't you? But consider this. In certain regions of pre-industrial revolution Europe, there are documented testimonies of structures that remained inexplicably illuminated. In 19th century official correspondence, there are observations described as magic lamps or diabolical illumination. The church suppressed them. The state concealed them. But for a community deep inside Siberia, there was no church, no state. They continued living with this technology. And perhaps they are still living with it to this day. In this video, I won't tell you. Here is definitive proof. Because real evidence is unreachable for exactly this reason. Those who remain outside the system do not appear in documents that belong to the system. But look at the weight of the clues in our hands. There are reports of anomalous structural remains recorded and filed by various researchers in Siberia over the last 20 years. There are groups described by indigenous peoples as the people of the forest, groups that live differently from ordinary communities, avoid trade, refuse contact with outsiders. And there is that satellite image, deleted within 3 days, bearing a geometric heat signature, with energy generation and no infrastructure. There is a gap in every narrative about the Great Reset. Where are the heroes? In every great story of destruction, there is a group that defied the system, preserved the truth, and protected the knowledge. The Tartarian narrative gives us a magnificent past, but it doesn't show us the bridge that carries that past into the present. That is what this video is searching for. And you can feel where that bridge is now, can't you? Deep inside Siberia, at those points the maps left blank, in the places modern civilization says, "Don't exist," but actually means, "We don't want to see." Perhaps some things are not waiting to be forgotten, but waiting to be found. And perhaps, as you watch this video, you already feel it deep down. They are still out there. Don't lose hope. The truth can never stay hidden forever. Sooner or later, it always surfaces.